John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
It really was like trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. What was the point?
She'll look better.
She'll always be alone, ruined and diseased. What kind of future does she have?
Maybe more than she did.
No medicine in the world can do thee good.
In the blackest darkness, even a dim light is better than no light at all.
Who said that?
I just did.
All the mountains and ice are beginning to melt. And history is changing and times are changing. What does that mean to us? The greatest opportunity to be a part of a shifting consciousness to bring more compassion, more caring, more love, and more support to our friends and neighbors. All the terrifying stuff, to me, only makes it more exciting, because you will never die. You are chosen to come to this world, and you chose to come to this world. End of story. You were chosen to come because the divine architect believes that there is no one better suited than you at a certain time, at a certain place, at a certain point in the unfoldment of the spiritual world into the physical world by way of you for an event to occur. You are the divine system that a physical spiritual matter, person or being or consciousness can move through you and manifest into this rock, in the middle of a solar system. And you're here because they decided, as they're unfolding from that dimension of reality into this dimension of reality, there's nobody better than you to be able to execute that particular precise moment, whether it be once or 1,000 times, than you. So the fact that there may be anybody else on the earth just like you is 1 in 16 billion. Well, there's only 6 billion, 300, 400 million suckers here. So guess what? You the one. So get over it. And stay out of your own way. Your biggest problem in the changing face of time is getting in your own way. Because you're all filled up with sin and guilt and evil and can't pay the rent and blah, blah, blah. Well, you created those situations because the spiritual nature of life on earth is to create obstacles so that you can, in mental, emotional, and spiritually, figure out how to overcome them. I mean, all powerful spiritual beings are ADHD. They get bored really easy. They got to have something to do. Life is progression and growth and unfoldment and kindness and compassion and support. And that's the time that we're living in. The fact that myth doesn't work anymore. But science has brought forth a time frame that we have heard about in ancient stories and mythologies and legends from what we call heathen savages from centuries ago. But they knew it then too. We're only now discovering what they knew because we've advanced to a point to identify their past. Take it for instance, the Mayans. The Mayans wrote about, described, and carved Neptune in their understanding of the universe, and Pluto, and Charon, and Xena. 2600 BC, they knew this. They wrote it down, carved it in stone. Well, we didn't discover Neptune until 1843. We didn't discover Pluto until 1931. We didn't discover Charon until 2001. And we didn't discover Xena until 2003. Explain that to me. Think about it. Where are you going to go if that's true? Whatever you think right now about who you are and where you came from, and that's true, then who are you and where'd you come from? And do you believe the history that you've been told? Ain't going to happen, kids. The changing face of time.
Is anything, well, one of the things that we try to do in the Career Laboratory is help young people establish goals, like what is important in your life. And you may want to share with the persons watching this program as to important goals that you feel are worthwhile for realizing the human potential.
Well, of course, I set priorities in my life from the time that I was a child. I remember my priorities at that time were my homework and my chores, and I would get them done. And I remember also that I always really enjoyed other things. My girlfriends didn't always. They were too often worrying about their homework, which wasn't done. But my homework, my important things, that was all done, and so I enjoyed other things. Now, this taught me self-discipline, and it led to a very orderly life. I still have priorities in my life today. And then the pattern of choosing to be free. Not all people choose this. In fact, we choose for ourselves a variety of enslavements. I remember when I was a child, I was offered real cigarettes from a package which I didn't smoke, but my friends did. In high school, I was offered every kind of alcohol you can think of, which I didn't drink, but my friends did. Now, I faced a test in this regard just beyond my student days. All my friends at that time used both alcohol and tobacco, and with this push toward conformity in those days, they actually looked down on me because I didn't. And gathered in someone's living room, I said to them, look, life is a series of choices. Nobody can stop you from making your choices, but I have a right to make my choices too. And I have chosen freedom. And then I went right on to choose freedom from other enslaving things like negative thinking, meaningless activities, unnecessary possessions. It stayed right in that pattern all through my life.
Is there really freedom without self-discipline?
There cannot be. You see, you are definitely not free if you do not have self-discipline. Actually, the self-centered nature is never completely free because it is governed by the wishes for comfort and convenience on the part of the body, by the demands of the mind, and by the outbursts of the emotions. It is only the higher nature that can control body, mind, and emotions. And of course, constantly in your early life, you're going through that struggle between body, mind, and emotions and the self-centered nature, which is using them to some extent without ever being fully able to control them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, Andre Hodge, 7 of Truth and Infinite Potential Healing here once more. And as I've been owning my power, calling myself Crocodile, Star-Lord, Wolverine, Aladdin, Dundee, I hope you've been inspired to own your power and recognize how much of a intergalactic incarnation badass that you are as well. And I just want to thank you for all the battles, all the challenges, and everything you've had to overcome in many, many lifetimes just to be here now, alright? Just to be on Earth and having some form of awareness and being willing to expand that by finding me. What I want to do today is I'm trying not to be too long. I'm going to include a few clips and stuff, but I want to offer you something that's another assumption I have. So I'm probably going to add this to the foundational concepts and make it part 2. And it's about valuing your life force. And life force is like a variable that is just out there, but it's sort of untangible, as in it's in the unseen sort of realms and stuff, and it's not quantifiable and all that sort of stuff. So there's been movies like The Matrix and all that sort of stuff that sort of give you a concept of how powerful we are and what this human body DNA technology that you're soul contracted to be occupying now has within it. So because I've been very transparent deliberately to show you where I've come from, where I gained a lot of stuff, and honestly, like the transparency and in recent times offering the Galactic Special Forces up to part 8, so I hope you've enjoyed part 7 and 8. I've included a lot of teachings in there as well, such as in part 8, the virtue and character of operating in a, imposed sort of society where you don't have to compromise yourself just because everything else around you is going on. And this valuing your life force is definitely an expansion of that. And hopefully I'll give you a few reasons why. So I just want to also thank Captain Marvel earlier this week at about 3 a.m. on August 22nd, 2021. Sort of got a bit of a picture of some of the shit that's been going on around me and influence and all that sort of stuff, and it sort of I gave her sort of some information that I'd gotten and that, and it triggered her to engage her Kali aspect, and it wasn't really the Kali aspect came through and just wanted to club her some shit. So I think a lot of people around me have been denied access and influence and all that sort of stuff, and it got shellacked. She's not she's like an awesome ally that I've had recently, and I thank you very much for that, and it was pretty cool. I'm still integrating the change, and I've had to withdraw quite a bit, because what I have done is, by withdrawing, it actually increases my life force level, and then my potency and everything I'm talking about, I'm sort of living. So I sort of focus on doing these videos, and then my healings, and the healings have been epic and stuff, and I've been quite proactive with that on myself as well. So just you, my friend, thank you very much for that, and we'll see what happens, and it'll take a bit of time for it to percolate through, and yeah, there's a lot around me that's brewing, and I thank the other people as well that are doing some stuff. I know, yeah, I'm not going to say too much, but yeah, I'm very grateful to be here, and if you find me, that's awesome. And as always, if I help you accelerate and expand, that's a gift that you're giving me, because the reason why I'm explaining all this the way I've done and what I've been through is to help you to prevent some of the assumptions I made that got me into a lot of trouble, like the bankruptcy and stuff like that. People have said, oh, you chose it and all this sort of stuff. Bullshit, okay? I was just, if I use one of the diagrams, I haven't used this one in a while, but say, in the 3D 5 sense, we're all very predictable, right? So if you're going to do major things down the track, then stuff can be done to prevent that. And my thing is enduring everything that happens and overcoming it, and dealing with it and recalibrating to move on and move forward with the constraints that you're in. It's a little bit windy, sorry about that. Yeah, so it's chess moves and overcoming the influences and stuff like that, and constantly having, as I shared in Galactic Special Forces 7 and 8, your will and your intent and stuff, and focusing on that no matter what, and adjusting to the events around you. And yeah, I made a lot of assumptions in my life, like I could be the target and the people around me. It's like I didn't realize that people can get influenced, and how vulnerable humanity is and stuff, and how there is a lack of will to expand to what is going on. So, you know, future infinite potential healing, I'm going to do etheric implants and stuff like that. It'll take me a little bit to do, because I'm going to incorporate some videos and stuff, and we'll see what happens. But today I'm offering this one about the valuing of your life force. So, like I said, it's a bit elusive to define what it is, but we all operate in an environment where life force exchange happens every day. And if I show you some money, like this is some Aussie money. It's a bit might be backwards because I'm doing the reverse camera and stuff, but if you've never seen Aussie money, this is one note. So there's the way I see it, and I learned through currency trading and a long process, is money. All money is life force encapsulation technology, all right? So this unit of money, I could pay someone to get a healing and stuff like that, or pay for food. And it might be like I go to the food supermarket and they've grown like vegetables and stuff, and I give this to exchange the energy for the effort that the grower has gone through, and the retail market and stuff like that. So what this does is it engages people to do services. So in order to do a service, say like an energy healing or a massage and stuff, that individual's gone through all the training and all the investment to get them to that level of what they're at. And it's a huge investment and cost, such as doctors as well. You know, like degrees are hundreds of thousands of dollars over in the US and stuff. So what we're doing was we're exchanging energy for the wisdom of that person's got, right? And in the spiritual community, there's a real lack of, and lack is a huge thing, all right? There's a lack of valuing of it. And my aspect of the spiritual sort of work is it's actually the most precious thing out there. So many of you, if you heard me, I talk about my womb chakra crystals, and I value them at 1 million US, okay? That's 1.4 million Aussie, okay? So the reason why I do that is it's not that it's a lot of money. $1.4 million isn't a lot of money compared to how precious our life force is, all right? And how precious those crystals are. And what happens is like the banks, the central banks and stuff, what I learned is they do these things called quantitative easing, so they inject more money and give it to the banks for cheap, which expands the money system, all right, which diminishes each value of each unit, all right, and that's where inflation kicks in. So, you know, I think the central banks recently with the virus has injected $29 trillion of energy into the system, all right? So what that does, it diminishes the value of each dollar. So you need to pay more for the same amount that you had before. So that's inflation. Inflation is the difference in price over a unit of time. So if there's more money added to the system, then the value of that money is lower. And so you see housing prices and share prices and all that going through the roof. And that's where I said the economy was going to go ballistic, and it has, all right? It's because you inject a lot of money and the things have a numerical larger amount, but the assets are a metaphor of what the value is, all right? It's not that they're worth more, it's the money is worth less, all right? So that's why I said that, okay? You have to understand me from a technical currency trader background, okay? Like everything has gone up. Like last November I said it's time to buy stocks to my mate, and I think most stock markets have gone up 50, 100%, you know? You look at the price of Bitcoin, like Bitcoin, the thing with Bitcoin is it was only ever going to be 21 million maximum once they're all mined and stuff. So if there's a finite volume, then if there's an infinite volume of the currencies out there that get expanded, then that finite volume increases in value, like number of houses and stuff like that. So that's a bit of a off-tangent money value teaching, all right? But what I'm wanting to do here is to really help you recognize that in your bodies and your technology and being human on Earth, like everything you do has a life force cost. So if you have an emotional reaction to stuff on the news and stuff like that, and it triggers you to go into a rage, then you're expelling your life force, because every emotion has a life force component to it. So to actually go through an emotion and stuff like that, you have to, the body engages the technology in it to express hormones and create them, so you can actually have feelings, and then the feeling technology kicks in. So if people are malnourished and stuff, and they're put into rages and stuff, then they get very, very depleted, okay? And then, yeah, there's a thing I call nutritional suffocation going on, where the foods and all that don't have the nutrition requirement to actually have an expression. So you're seeing, I got mozzies. You know, a lot of you out there will be like observing people, and you're wondering why can't they change and stuff, and change takes an investment of energy to percolate through to the body and stuff. So when you appreciate life force, and then you can tune in and stuff, yeah, it's a variable that's very much like money. It's a foundational element to our society, but most people don't really have a appreciation of it. So I'm going to try and offer that here. So just to sort of recap on the bigger picture video and foundational concepts part 1, okay, I'm going to show you an image. So I showed this in foundational concepts part 1 relative to the energies and the galaxy and all that sort of stuff. So over a long time, like millions of years, we're being stepped down from 7th dimension to the 3rd dimension sort of stuff. And that little arrow, if you see it, to see that as the measure that, say, it's not to scale or anything, but it's a level of pushback at the moment. Because say if the universe and galaxy we're going through is conducive to there being more energy, our bodies are a metaphor of that, and where we have the opportunity to have more life force in us, just innately, right? Our bodies are, and having an abundance of life force is the natural state, so there's resistance going on for that to be impossible. Okay? So the way I see society at the moment is there's a fear about us being powered, all right? That's what's going on. So it's not to get caught up in that, It's just to recognize it and appreciate it and focus on yourself, and hopefully this awareness of life force sort of teaching will aid you to navigate it and endure everything and focus on you, alright? So if I go back to the another image that I've shown many times, so the way I see it is there's a big effort to prevent this, alright, when our natural state is like this, alright? So the reality has a huge cost to maintain this, which is not our natural state. And so you're sort of seeing an escalation of things and craziness to destabilize the potential for that, which is our natural state, okay? So, but in order to have that function, you need to be able to access a high level of life force from my perspective, right? These are my perspectives. I'm not saying this is the absolute be-all, end-all of anything, but just I'm introducing concepts to contemplate and observe things in a different way, okay? So I want to give you an example of life force, right? And it's a different metaphor. And many years ago, I uploaded a lecture by a guy named Harry Oldfield, and from that, I actually uploaded a separate clip about the life force content of organic versus inorganic food. You know, there's this buzzword, organic food, out there and stuff like that. What I want to do is offer you this clip, and I haven't reviewed it myself for a while, but I think when you see it, it'll give you a good metaphor of life force, alright? Because a lot of people can perceive auras and stuff like that and perceive the energy and stuff, and a lot of people can perceive lack, and then you get energy vampires and stuff like that. So if you go and watch this and spend some time seeing it, there's things like this clip might include the phantom limb syndrome, where people that have lost limbs and stuff, they can still feel their body and that. So my attitude is, part of the 3D condensing is the body doesn't have the ability to reanimate limbs and stuff. If you can feel it at an energy level, like I have a trust or perception that why can't the body regenerate all that stuff, and it gets to the nutrition in the body, and I got this concept called we're being nutritionally suffocated, alright? So I've offered many things relative to nutrition and stuff. I'm a massive supporter of it, and going back many years, I appreciated that the foods where the farming is sort of done, there's an absence of the nutrition that we actually need, okay? So say you crave a food, and you know, like you might walk around the market and you can become a food whisperer, and that I'll get into that a bit later, where your body's actually telling you around food what you want, and you might have a desire for particular foods, but what society does is they sort of, like your body, say you might crave tomato sauce or ketchup or something like that, and the reason why you're craving that is there's some certain minerals in them that your body wants, okay? But what society does, it puts a lot of those variables out there in foods and stuff, and in the foods they don't have the actual nutrition content. They've got additives like MSG and stuff that simulate the flavor expression, but the body's actually trying to have a dialogue with you to get the nutrition you crave for it to function at its highest level. So there's a subtle sort of messing around with that. So have a watch of the Harry Oldfield lecture, and it's really interesting. And Harry's cool because he basically is like a Lemurian spiritual scientist, alright, and he's invented these technologies and went through the process of creating Keelian technology. So I hope you enjoy this and see the unseen aspect of why organic food is desired, okay? Because there's a level of nourishment in there that you can't equate to, but when you consume it, you get the vitality and all that sort of stuff, right? So enjoy this clip, guys.
And some of my early research actually began before that date, but 1972, the Curlian photography. Semyon and Valentin produced a beautiful method of making electrical pictures using corona discharge around living things and non-living things. And the wonderful thing about living things, ladies and gentlemen, is they gave off a wonderful, vibrant energy field. The inanimate object did not, unless it was like a coin or a cross that had been influenced with healing energy. And this was an artist, I call this the, for those old enough to remember the ad, the Ready Break Man, okay? The wonderful golden glow. The artist's impression is very good, but I have to tell you, in reality, and this evening you'll be seeing the reality of it, the artist's impression is a shadow of what the living energy field around a human being and all other living things are in reality. This was one of the first Curlian pictures in color I took of my thumb. No members of the local constabulary here, I hope. Good, good. I'm still incognito. Right, okay. And this is actually the corona discharge and the energy. There's no lens or focal plane in a Curlian camera. There's a moisture screen above the film, and there's an electronic plate, and an electromagnetic field is passed around it. I'll be showing you the setup for those of you I know in Glastonbury who dabble. I'll show you how to do it. And it's in my books, of course. Thank you. And here's the apparatus. We have here, ladies and gentlemen, inside there, a modified Tesla coil, which is a pulsed high-frequency coil. Here we have a DC power source so that there is no fluctuations from mains frequency or interference coming down the wiring. And here in these early days, my design of a function generator that had pulse ranges of very below and beyond human frequency ranges of ears, but these were electromagnetic field pulses with different waveforms. And we sent this pulsed high frequency, high voltage into something like a leaf, which was earthed, and this is the plate, this is reflective dielectric covering, and that reflected all the light back to the film, which was underneath the object to be photographed. Of course, when people put their fingers and hands on it, they didn't need to be earthed, unless they liked wires attached to them, of course, and then we obliged, of course. That goes down rather well in America, where certain electrocution methods are still used for capital punishment. But it's wasted here. I'll remember that, not to do it again. And here, right, I know in Glastonbury you're interested in the paranormal and ghosts and phantoms. Because when I was an ordinary reductionist thinking young man in my early days of learning about science, we didn't entertain such things. But over the years, my mind has changed. And it began with looking at a leaf. Okay, can you see this leaf here? It's a Canadian maple leaf, but it's not all there. If you look very carefully, ladies and gentlemen, from here to there, there is no physical leaf. It's a phantom energy picture. Okay? And Roger and I came up with a term long before string theory in physics for a subatomic energetic matrix on which these physical molecules for everything around people, the universe, trees, stones, you name it, on which these physical molecules are strung. Okay? And it's this organizing field. Okay, morphogenic field resonance as well has been brought forward by people, you know, various researchers and other things, of course, which I give due credit to. Thank you. Now, I wasn't satisfied with that partial phantom. What would happen if you took the whole leaf away? Well, I tried that and there was nothing left. So I left a central stem of vital force, okay, and ripped off all the leaves, which were there. That's the control, by the way, on the left, what it was like before I ripped off all the leaves. The leaves, the secret for a good phantom, 100%, is they have to be burned, okay? Just like in India, you know, the physical remnants of this space-time are burned, and therefore the energetic process is released and carries on instantly. The other thing to mention is the plant has to be, for this 100%, organically grown. If it's seeing chemical fertilization, any time in its growing life period, you will only get partial phantoms. This we discovered in the 1970s, before organic farming was popular. Here, by the way, I started to grow organic cabbages. And as you, there's farmers and growers here, this part of the country, I hope. At least with the apples and cider, at least, I hope. And one of the scourges of the organic gardener is the cabbage white caterpillar. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm maligning it, ladies and gentlemen, so much is because of what I did a few seconds later. Please show the ghastly deed. A very painless injection of potassium cyanide, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's a good point at this stage to announce that I also do children's parties and weddings, and Andy will be taking bookings after the presentation, or Martin down there. We'll see. And no, don't do this at home, ladies and gentlemen. I am an expert. Okay. As my dad used to say, an X is something that was, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. And so after this injection, you can see that the life force was put out. It was just like putting a hose on a bonfire. Light went out. There's fallout from the creature, but that creature, I assure you, is quite dead. And that's the before, just to remind you, and the after. And the reason why I put healthy there is because it had a last meal of my organic cabbages. And they were beautiful, just done with a knob of butter. They were gorgeous, you know. So he died very happy. I even put the butter on for him, you know. So, anyway, thank you. And here's some of that organic material, the organic cabbage. Okay, beautiful. It's not a galaxy in some thing taken from the Hubble telescopes, taken in the early 1970s with this discovery. But you can do terrible things to an organic piece of material too, especially if you put it in a pressure cooker or stew it from hours and hours. How many of you of my generation remember school dinners? And you'd walk through the school gate and you could smell what you were going to be having for lunch, because it'd been cooking from about 7 o'clock in the morning. Don't overcook your vegetables, ladies and gentlemen, because it takes out the life force. And this vitality, we also proved, is transferred to a human subject or an animal subject who eats the organic material. These aren't some supernova suns in a distant galaxy. They are organic oranges with the energy field around them in Kirlian. Here we have an organic clove of garlic, and it was so energetic, ladies and gentlemen, with this effervescence of energy. It was even sending out, well, I didn't know what they were in those days, but almost orb-like structures right across the photography plate, several centimeters.
So I hope you've enjoyed that. It's pretty cool. I love Harry. He's awesome, and he's got an awesome heart and great intent and stuff like that. I'm just going to offer some concepts to contemplate. They could be wrong, they could be off, but it's a ballpark to have as a reference and then measure against. Okay, so my attitude is, see, the majority of people are running on 30 or 40% life force. All right, and what I started doing when I got into spiritual groups is like I got to a level of thing that I was comfortable with, and I went out and wondered if there were other people like me, and then you go to groups and stuff and you meet other spiritual people and stuff like that, and I was so raw and inspired and like, wow, people are into this stuff, you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole different culture out there that you didn't know and stuff, and going back 2008, 2009 to 2013 and 14 and stuff, it's really vastly different to how it is now, and I feel very privileged to have gone through that era. It was a lot easier, I feel, and the volume of teachings and all that, it was a lot easier to find, and like YouTube wasn't owned by Google and all that sort of stuff. But what I found is, and it took me a long time to really grasp this concept, is not everyone's like you. You actually might be one of the very, very rare that is so thorough intent, and I say thorough about healing and stuff, the majority of people do no healing, all right? They might do one healing and it doesn't work because they're so depleted and they've never done it and it has no effect, and it actually might come back and have a negative effect because their bodies are so depleted, okay, that when they get the rise in energy, the functions that the body hasn't been able to employ kick in, and there's a cost, all right, because that energy that they get allows the body to do the functions that are in backlog that need to be done. So I'm going to show you another image, all right, that I've just done. So I've shown this image about how we can get compromised in our energy fields and stuff, and you know, if you're running on low life force and you don't have emotional control and stuff, because emotional control, unless you've sort of developed it and become like infinite in your energy management, it can be very demanding to maintain it, and you can be very swayed by people around you and stuff. So to maintain this, it's an investment to get strong, like it's a muscle, right? And a lot of people basically, I don't like making assumptions, but it's very rare that people are actually clear, okay? Like I've had to back off and only resort to sessions or doing these videos unless I've vetted people, and I'm very strict on that now, all right? I'm not allowing a lot of what I have allowed in the past to grind me down, because I'm doing galactic special forces sort of stuff, all right? And when the people come for sessions, they're really epic, all right? So thank you for you guys out there that have been willing to explore and value me and stuff. It's very it affords me to continue doing these sort of teachings, okay? So this is a metaphor, all right, of how it is and how we can be, and we don't even know, because a lot of people don't even know they're compromised. They're in passenger mode to being rung and stuff like that. And so what I want to do is expand this and take it to another level, all right? I'm going to show you an expansion of that. So this is I was mentioning going to groups and stuff like that, and see that this is like you're running into someone that you are having an interaction with and talking and stuff, and say this is you that are very high frequency, all right, and running on a very high level of energy. See the bar graph on the side here? On either side is the life force content of each person and stuff. And what happens is, say this is the energy field and stuff, and say you might run into someone and start up a conversation, and you get into high frequency sort of mode, all right, and you get very inspired that someone might be interested in you and stuff, or another healer, or have the potential in them to have a lot of stuff. But say this bar graph over here is very high, the one over there is very low, and the different direction is, say, like if I do it like that, it's running at that much, all right? And there's all this up here that isn't happening, all right? There's a gap and an absence. And say this is you over here, all right? And you might be quite complete, quite healed, and running at a very high level and stuff. And what happens is, what you can do is run into someone and have these interactions, and the conversation becomes very tuned into you. You're in each other's energy fields, and what can happen is you might actually be an innate healer without recognizing it, and these people are in your field that have no concept of healing and would never heal, and some of your life force gets transferred over to them, because my attitude is the majority of people are like this, all right? It's not their fault, it's this world, how it is, and it's very, very demanding energetically in the multidimensional level, all right? But it's also not your responsibility for their journey. But what can happen is, this metaphor happens, okay? And this has happened to me a lot. This is an example of energy vampirism, all right? And I'm not saying the person or whatever is aware of what's going on. Say they've got a gap in their energy field and they've got entities coming through and tapping into like their lower energies and stuff, all right? The majority of people have no concept of this, because to actually be aware, all right, is you actually have to have the level of life force up here and stuff, right? I'm not saying most of us are full. The majority of people are running quite deficient and stuff, right? And so it can be very tough, especially if family and all that sort of stuff, like people that consume alcohol and drugs and stuff, they're probably most likely haunted, and they've got energies that are sucking them dry, which are wanting the life force and stuff. So a lot of people can seek externals such as drugs and all that sort of stuff to help fill that, whereas if they just went for energy healing, they would clear all that, and their natural state is to be actually very high. All right, so you can see things like news and stuff going on in the media and that, and I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but our emotions and the emotional experiences we have do have a life force cost, all right? And that's where, say, meditation is an enormous beneficial investment to actually, you can actually experience emotions, but you don't actually have to give away your energy to it, all right? The way I do it is I question myself, why is this emotion coming up? I go deep into it, because you might have a trauma and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, that's just a concept, all right? So say I was getting back to the money and the investment, all right? So if someone's in abundance of money and someone's in lack, all right, there's a transfer that goes on, all right? If you're having a service and stuff like that, you're transferring the money for that individual to survive, all right? So energy exchange is vital in this reality, okay? A lot of people are looking to get away with it, all right? So yeah, just the key is to actually value your life force and value your investment into awareness and stuff like that, and do the energy hygiene sort of stuff and that, and it'll be much more conducive to you operating a high frequency, which will allow the abilities to sort of kick in, all right? And I was meant to show you an image from before, all right, relative to life. I'll just show you a different image that I drew. So this is a very, very simple graph of what life is like, all right? So the line that's going horizontal there that I've just twisted, all right, that's our life, all right, relative to life force, okay? We might get more. It's gradual and stuff, because we sort of start off with a volume of life force and stuff, and this line that's going like that up here, that's the cost to our life, all right? So there's the early years where we're actually in abundance to the cost, and the cost of life starts kicking in, but then we can get depleted and stuff like that. We have a lack, all right? So that negative sign there is where the upper line is the cost of life and the lower line is what we have, and that can erode us, all right? Like, you think about mortality and you need life force in your body to actually function, all the functionality and stuff. The reality is designed to grind us down over time, all right? So one of the things that was brought up back in 2013 and stuff was, there was a huge thing about sovereignty and stuff like that, getting clear of the legal system and all this sort of stuff. And say birth certificates, for an example, are a bond that the country owns you, your body, as a asset relative to the volume of life force you have. And I think, let's just say, I think Andrew said it was like $1.8 million US, all right? So for example, in Australia, if you have a birth certificate, it's traded in the Australian corporation out of the Australian Embassy in Washington, D.C., because D.C. is a free trade zone. It's not actually part of America from the legal standpoint. And then what happens is it's traded all through the Bank of International Settlements, and then the Queen of England has the contract for the owning of our birth certificates and stuff, and that was transferred from the Vatican about 1813, okay? So that's the mechanism of the matrix, okay? And so what happens is, immigration and all that sort of stuff is related to the life force in us, and it's an asset, all right, that this system operates by. And so when you see money and stuff, it's called currency exchange and stuff like that. Well, I came through like people like Jordan Maxwell that was talking about maritime admiralty law and stuff, how a ship is birthed and stuff like that. It's like the water and the sacred feminine and stuff, and that's why sort of the goddesses were on the ships and stuff like that when they were wood ships and that. So I'm bringing in a lot of concepts that are quite advanced, and I'm not going to expand on them, but what I'm getting to is my attitude is not actually relative to water, it's actually relative to life force. So, you know, if I go back to the other drawing, so we sort of have been taught in culture that vampires are after our blood and stuff like that, but what if it's actually just related to our life force, right? What if it's purely the life force and the harvesting of life force and that, alright? So just consider that, alright? It's much more subtle and it's going on, and you think, oh, pure, there's not these disease-ridden beings that bite my neck and suck the blood out. It's actually that's something put into our culture, and they could be out there. Sean, I did shows on Sean and stuff like many years ago where he was tuning into that sort of stuff, so they're probably out there, okay? And but this is far more prevalent in our society, all right? And say after you interact with people and stuff, you can feel depleted the next day, and you just feel like fucking shit. It's like, shouldn't have done that. And you know me, like, I very, very sensitive, and I do remote healings, and basically anyone that comes in my energy field, no matter what, this is already happening, okay? Does that make sense? So that's where I'm not interacting with people, I'm not maintaining them, because think about the etheric implants and chips and stuff. If people are depleted and they're using apps on their mobile phone and stuff like that, then they can get influence and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just like value yourself. Like, one thing I worked out about the emotional mastery and stuff, and that's another teaching, is that going into hermit mode and stuff, and I use the reference teaching in the multidimensional method to the 3D madness and the sanctuary state and sanctuary space. I think they're part 5 and 6 in the multidimensional method to the 3D madness teachings. Like, what it took me for really recognizing what was going on was I had to retreat and actually be a hermit after all my bankruptcy and stuff, because I was living on $10 a day and stuff, and I was doing extensive healing despite that, and I couldn't find, you know, it was like, freaking how much healing do I have to do? But what I realized is what I was actually picking up is not me. But I had to go through that thorough path to really realize it, and going into hermit mode is really powerful, because when you're in a familiar space you can really measure yourself, alright? So if you've got a sanctuary where you can actually feel how you are, and then you go somewhere else, you can use the mathematics like I was showing and feel how you feel relative to there. Because like I said in some of the videos, the recent ones about, you know, Australia's in lockdowns and stuff, so you go into the supermarket, everyone's bringing their shit and they're dumping it because they're in fear and all that sort of stuff. There could be bombs there, alright? Like booby traps, and like you come back and you feel like, fuck, it's like, could be absolutely smashed if you're not on guard and you're not owning your energy and owning your core, alright? You know thyself, alright? And that's why I'm saying the sanctuary space and sanctuary state is you can go in and tune into that and reference you and know, you know this isn't you, alright? But it takes a fair bit of experience to know the difference, and then you do a mathematical equation of what is you and what isn't you, alright? There was another guy by the name of Paul Chek that I haven't mentioned yet, and I would hope to mention relative to around Harry Oldfield. And in my Consciousness Explorer series, there was I think it was in part 13 or so, about the human body and that, and he's in quite a few parts. That was about the human body, and he talks about the life force and stuff, and when the body is genius, alright? It's really amazing. And what happens is that, and this is going to the pattern recognition, I'd done that pattern recognition about Dr. Weston Price, because Dr. Weston Price was about nutrition, of going around the world and going to all these indigenous tribes that had really amazing bone structure and teeth, and the bone structure that the indigenous had was relative to the third eye and all that sort of stuff. So there was a balance and a harmony for the psychic abilities. Like as I said, the natural state is to be aware, all right? There's a huge amount invested to prevent our awareness, like the absence of nutrition in the food and the energy content relative to, say, the organic sort of stuff, all right? But what Paul Chek was saying, it's really cool. It's a pattern thing. Like I'll get the Dr. Weston Price pattern that I got is the regional menus are unique, but the outcome is common. And so, like, you're seeing control pretty obvious at the moment. So each region, like, say Afghanistan needs war to suppress it, and the Middle East needs the war to lock the grid down in the womb chakras over there with trauma and stuff. But say in Australia or America, you can't have bombs and stuff, so they have other sort of methods, all right, like frequency and all that sort of stuff, and cultural beliefs and all that. Okay, so what Paul Chek was saying about the body, and this is a genius in the harmony of our technology, is if there is that depletion, all right, if I go back to the image, if there is depletion like that, and say we're running on 30 or 40%, and the build-up of processes that need to be done, all right, just don't have the ability to function at a high level, then what can happen is the body has to allow failures to happen, such as illness and injuries and harm and disease and, you know, really bad stuff. And he gets into the first level of issues, basically inflammation, and then it goes from itis to otis and stuff. And the genius of the body, and this is a pattern, right? Like they say, it's related to DNA and all that sort of stuff, and it could be like, you know, like your father gets a, say, particular illness like cancer or whatever and stuff, and you might get the same thing. But to me, that's more about the body technology allows you to have the least worst thing to occur, alright? So perhaps there's other worse things that the body can't afford to fail on if it's really depleted, okay? So what happens is the body's genius works out the least damaging thing to offer you to be able to survive in your skin suit, right?
So here's the facts. Here's the diet facts. This is all you need to know. Don't feed lions leaves and don't feed giraffes meat. That's it. Right? How many times have you seen headlines on the news of lions who are straight meat eaters getting heart attacks? Well, let me tell you something. It's interesting. The first heart attack in the United States of America occurred in 1921. And all of a sudden we're supposed to not eat red meat because it's going to clog your arteries. Well, how the hell did we survive at least 2.8 million years since we branched off from our chimpanzee ancestors living on red meat? How come all of a sudden it's bad for us? If it's so damn bad, if saturated fat's so bad, why is it the only fat that your cells manufacture? Why do you manufacture cholesterol if it's so bad for you? I'll tell you, it's not red meat is bad. It's shit, commercially farmed meat that's fed poisonous crap and pumped full of drugs. That's what the problem is. Don't be blaming it on the animals. They're here in service to you and to me. It's not the animals. It's not the red meat, because those lions don't have any problem. Those giraffes, they don't have any problem. They eat what they're supposed to eat. They're just fine. They poop fine. They feel fine. They don't need any sexual performance drugs either. Okay? So it's a real simple formula here. If you're eating wrong and you're eating garbage food, you're going to screw up your Krebs cycle. You will have an energy crisis. Whenever you go into an energy crisis, immediately your body has to decide, okay, who do I short on energy today? I'm out of energy, right? It takes between 55 and 75% of the calories you eat just to run your food from mouth to anus. Most people don't realize that. Do your homework. Study John Berardi's articles. It's right in there. He tells you the facts. 55 to 70 or even 75% of your calories are used just to run the system, just to degulate, digest, metabolize, assimilate, and eliminate. Costs you 55 to 70% of the calories delivered. But if you're burning up more nutrition to run the factory than you're getting in your food, you're going bankrupt. You're going nutritionally bankrupt. That's what we have today. Bankruptcy. Health bankruptcy. Aaron Fried Pfeiffer said all the way back in 1957, he said most people die by the age of 35, and their corpses just walk around for another 35 years. Okay? So when you go into an energy crisis, your body has some serious decisions to make. Who is it? I'm going to ask you, let's pretend you all have an energy crisis because you're not eating right and you're not going to bed on time, you're not following the basic principles you need to follow. So I'm going to ask you, when you have to start shorting one of these biological systems for energy, which one's it going to be? Your nervous system? Your hormonal system? Your immune system? Your thermoregulatory system? Your reproductive system? Your circulatory system? Your digestive system? Or your eliminative system? Hey, which one do you want to short? Who do you put on reserve? Well, here's a stat for you. 90 to 95% of North Americans are constipated. We sell in the United States of America $1.69 million worth of laxatives every day. There are so many constipated people going to emergency rooms that they had to change the criteria for giving out laxatives. It used to be if you hadn't pooped at least once in a day, they would give you a laxative. Now they made it once every 2 days because they were giving out so many laxatives to people that had no insurance. It was making the medical system spend tons of money on laxatives, right? So I've just given you factual proof that on average Americans are quite full of shit. Okay? Okay? So look, your body has to harvest the energy somewhere. It might also interest you to know that about 90% of Americans have been shown through research to have a parasite infection right now. About 85 to 90% of Americans have a dysbiosis. Instead of having 85% friendly, they've got 85% unfriendly bacteria in their intestinal tracts, which is literally poisoning their body and throwing their complete biochemistry off and sending them chasing after pills and this patch and that patch. It's a waste of time. You'll spend your money forever. The only reason these things make you feel a little better is because any energy input into the system gives you a sense of feeling better. But energy inputs aren't correction. I can prove that to you. Show me where your car is. I'll walk outside, hit it with a sledgehammer. That would be an energy input, wouldn't it? Right? And it'll feel different, but it won't be better. Right? And I can prove this to you easily. Any of you in this room that has pain in your back or your neck, take a 1/4 of an inch heel lift or even an 1/8 of an inch heel lift, stick it in any shoe, I don't give a damn. That will change your proprioceptive systems and alter the energy systems in your body enough that you will have pain relief probably from anywhere from a day to a week. If you just keep switching the heel lift back and forth, you'll keep tricking the proprioceptive system. I'm just showing you that an energy input doesn't mean you're doing anything for anybody. It just means you're tricking the system. Why play games? Let's get to the basics here. Okay? So we cannot afford, if you've got problems with your nervous system, hormonal system, or any of these biological systems, it means you're probably making basic mistakes and you need to get your priorities right. So you might want to say, well, when you don't eat right, what am I going to look like? I'll show you. Right? Remember, your body always has a need for nutrition and it sends you after nutrition. So if you eat food and there's no nutrition in it, your brain says, keep eating, keep eating. I'm short on omega-3 fatty acids. Keep eating. I'm short on B12. Keep eating. I'm short, and you just keep eating. So what do? People are literally starving to death, and this is what they look like. Oh, that's toaster. I won't get into that, but eating bread is a bad idea. Okay. Because what happens down here is a big question mark. Simply, about 55 to 60% of white-skinned people are gluten intolerant. As soon as you eat gluten, it inflames your intestinal tract, wipes out your microvilli. You can't digest dairy anymore, so you keep stressing your immune system, and then you have to divert all your energy into your immune system, and anytime you inflame the gut, you elevate your cortisol levels. That elevates your stress levels, so now you throw your blood sugar all over the place. Should I keep going? You're screwed, right? All in a toaster. So there you go. That's common. Travel around the world like I do. You see that all the time. So what happens is when you don't eat right, first you get tired, then you eat too much carbohydrate for energy, then you get fat and tired, and usually you get sick more and more, and finally you get obese, and then you're diseased, and then you're dead, right? So what do you see today? You see all sorts of fat people with fat kids because they're doing the same thing. They're eating the same way. They're doing the same stuff.
Okay, so what Paul Chek was saying about the body, and this is a genius in the harmony of our technology, is if there is that depletion, all right, if I go back to the image, if there is depletion like that, and say we're running on 30 or 40%, and the build-up of processes that need to be done, all right, just don't have the ability to function at a high level, then what can happen is the body has to allow failures to happen, such as illness and injuries and harm and disease and, you know, really bad stuff. And he gets into the first level of issues, basically inflammation, and then it goes from itis to otis and stuff. And the genius of the body, and this is a pattern, right? Like they say it's related to DNA and all that sort of stuff, and it could be, like, you know, like your father gets a, say, particular illness like cancer or whatever and stuff, and you might get the same thing. But to me, that's more about the body technology allows you to have the least worst thing to occur, alright? So perhaps there's other worse things that the body can't afford to fail on if it's really depleted, okay? So what happens is the body's genius works out the least damaging thing to offer you to be able to survive in your skin suit, right? So as I said, what happens is, and this is what I find with the pranic healing and all that, and that's why I do quite long sessions, is it's all about the energy top up of the life force, alright? And one thing that can happen even if you've got quite high life force but you're still a bit depleted is, say I'm in my 40s and stuff like that, and a lot of people haven't done a lot of healing, alright? One really cool thing I've recognized about the body is that it manages pain quite well. So say if you don't do massage and body work, one example is working as a barista in a coffee shop where you might make 500 to 1,000 coffees a day. You imagine you're using your arms a lot. Like you're using your arms, and a lot of pressure is on the back and shoulder blades and stuff like that. And if you've got to do that day in, day out, you'll be pretty strong, alright? But what can happen is you can accumulate density and issues and stuff like that, and a good way to resolve that is body work, alright? But like body work's money and people don't have it and all that, and most people are very reactive to crisis. Like I said, the body, it gives you issues and stuff, whereas being proactive is maintenance to maintain your life force, alright? So the body can run at the highest level. And I'm very proactive. I've learnt the mistakes, right? And a lot of you're probably proactive too because you're pretty high level, okay? But what the metaphor I'm sort of saying is that, so if the genius of the body, if it doesn't have the life force to actually self-heal, right, it will redirect, say, 10% of its life force to suppressing pain that you're not dealing with. So if you've got like knots in your body and stuff like that, or say if you've been traumatized, you got stabs in the back or chakras and stuff like that, what happens is the body will like recognize, okay, I'm gonna not allow you to experience all the pain I'm feeling. I'm gonna take, say, 10% of the energy and put it into the suppression of pain, okay? So until you actually deal with that pain, a volume of your life force is redirected to suppression to be able to endure what you're going through, okay? And then what happens in healing is, it's really, really cool. It's like, I know with the infinite potential sort of thing, and I've done a lot on myself, is that we all potentially carry pains that we don't know we're carrying. But then what happens is it can be popped off and released, and what happens is you realize, like, oh fuck, I was in agony and I couldn't deal with it, and I didn't realize, and it was limiting me, and I was having all these issues like physical limitation and stuff. And when you get that release, that clearance, alright, all that energy that was going into the suppression of pain and stuff like that gets returned to your abundance, alright? Or say metaphor is, this volume is going to suppression of your pain, alright? That gets returned to you, so you get this overall abundance. And what can happen is, or what does happen is, then the body has the resources to actually function at a higher level, and then so your vitality in your skin and all that looks really awesome, and that your dreaming takes off, your ability to perceive things and stuff kicks in, and your awareness and your cognitive functions go off the charts, alright? So what happens with pranic healing, and I use that as a defensive part and clear all the chips and stuff, is again, it's this sort of metaphor, and all the chakras. The metaphor I use with pranic healing is like, when I clear the chakras, is it's like, see your chakras in this reality like a bit of a filter of the pool, and this reality is designed to be very like full of crap, all right, energetic crap that influences you and is designed to bog us down, and to be like this, because then we're not at a higher level of function and our abilities aren't accessible, so we can't perceive through the reality, all right. And so if I'm clearing the chakras, it's returning us to that natural functionality in the reality no matter what. And in particular, the really cool thing about pranic healing is it focuses quite a bit on the spleen. And from the pranic healing perspective, the spleen is our sponge for the universal life force energy all around us that we can just, by being here and being in human body, it's part of our technology to actually gain the nourishment that is all around us, okay? So what happens is, the metaphor of the clogged pool filter that's full of leaves and stuff, it gets cleared of all that debris, and then its functionality kicks in, so you can actually be sustaining your energy and working at a high function, and then all those backlog of functions that have been waiting to perform are able to get done and stuff, right? So just see that it's not our faults and it's not the people's faults around us and stuff. The world and being human now is designed to grind us down, and healing isn't supported at all, right? So I'm just offering you why you should explore that as a variable. I've loved doing healing, and I do a lot of healing on myself. I've had to do a lot recently and stuff, and yeah, once you get clear of stuff, the functionality is there as a byproduct, right? Our natural state is to operate at a very high frequency, and I'm saying everything in the reality is not designed, but the fundamentals of the universe, if I go back to the bigger image, the fundamentals of the universe are conducive to our benefit, right? And the pushback is to prevent us, to keep us in that limited state, alright? So if I go back to the other image, so despite in the 3D 5 sense reality, alright, and no one but really, like, the acceptance of healing is a very minute sort of variable in society at the moment. To me, that's only revealing our potential, right? If we're just exploring all this, and then what happens, there was a bit of a break there. So my attitude is, yes, we are like this. Yes, it is how it is in the world, but we have so much potential, because it won't take much to us to be back to that natural state. Do you understand? The key for me is, like, my journey is actually healing has been the fast track to that, to be able to reveal the byproduct of what I'm here to do, and being able to have my psychic stamina and my endurance, and to be able to cognitively function, and my quantum processing that Captain Marvel tells me I do, is because I've recognized all this, and these are all assumptions, and get super proactive on healing, and do the energy hygiene, salt baths, and eating good food and stuff like that. You don't have to be a Nazi and stuff, and you don't have to listen to a lot of the concepts in the spiritual realm. They might not actually be right for your body. But what you'll probably have is your guidance and the higher function of the body to actually help with this, okay? So this is the 3D 5 sense image and stuff, and the majority of people, you got to see, like, there's a resistance for them to function at a higher level, metaphorically, like a lot of this information, and you can be compassionate for the rest of humanity and stuff, and see how they can't see beyond that, because it takes a lot of energy to actually go against the narrative and stuff. So just realize everyone else isn't your responsibility. I would say the greatest investment is investing in yourself and being the beacon and being the example to change, okay? So it's getting quite dark, and this has been quite long. It might be an hour. I was trying to make it a bit shorter and stuff. So yeah, this is a bit of an intro into life force. how precious and powerful we are, how much has been sort of done to prevent that. And I feel very compassionate for those that want that and need us to be like that, because yeah, people are going to be looking to be angry and all that sort of stuff. And to me, like, my emotion is core to my power. If I give emotion away to shit that doesn't serve me, it's just a waste of my life force. And that's why I just, like, I don't give a shit, you know. Like, I walk away from stuff and I go and create in my new sandbox and larger volume of people that are out there that may be waiting for my stuff and that. And I invite you to contemplate this deeply and just, I've tried to be a bit of an entry level, so a lot of you might actually get this, but just, like, this might be recalibration and refortification on that. So if you're here, if you're still here, and if you've been through a lot of my stuff, those of you that have gone through my Conscious Explorer series and all these sort of things very thoroughly, I really, really appreciate it. I've been attempted to be as transparent as I can and stuff, and yeah, it's a magical time to be on Earth. It's a very, very courageous time, and it's very, very conducive to you not being in the maximum of your life force. But what if you get to that place where you maximize your ability to endure it all and stuff like that? And I invite you to really contemplate these things to help with that, and then sustain yourself through it all and stuff. So I'm going to round it out here. I really appreciate you being here. You are a mega super galactic superstar if you are here and stuff, where we're not that many, and so far not that many have been able to stick with me and stuff. So I hope you benefit from the shift that my ally Captain Marvel did during the week. And you, my dear, I'm very, very grateful for you popping up, and I've once and for all got a really powerful ally that has got my back. I know that, so I can do all this stuff. I've been the way I've been actually bait to be messed with, alright? So I've drawn a lot of stuff out, and yeah, it's like, are you sure you want to mess with me? You sure? Alright? So thank you again. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enduring everything that's going on. I hope in your world you're realizing that maybe it's up to you to anchor everyone else, and it sucks to be responsible, but if I show you that other image that I've shown many times, maybe you are the one in your region to be the anchor, and there's lots of benefits up there if you accept your infinite potential and stuff. So thank you very much. If you can still see me, I look forward to seeing what we can co-create and we can do, and enduring all this stuff, and everything's on our side. So have the courage to not buy into the emotion and stuff that's coming up, to do what I said in the Truth Frequency video that Max Steele told me. It's not going to happen if you sense and feel bad shit, because what this might do is help you feel and separate a lot of stuff. So thank you once again. I look forward to the next time we connect, and if you reach me for a session, I really look forward to seeing where we can go. It's a privilege to be able to offer that and be an anchor, and for you to even be here to contemplate some of the things I do. It's a huge step up for me to be this transparent teacher and stuff. So until next time, guys, lots of love, and hang in there, and we'll see what happens. Cheers.
So has the modern medical system really helped us that far? Well, there's the doctor's approach. Check that out. I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, your HMO does not pay for enemas. I'm going to have to slap the shit out of you. Okay? So the modern model is symptom-oriented, focuses on isolated organ systems, focuses on germs and genetic causes, and they treat with pharmaceuticals and surgery. By the time you get pain, by the way, pain typically shows up in the 4th of 5 phases of diseases. You will not have to look far to find somebody who went to the doctor to get a checkup. They had a pain in their chest for the first time or something, and the doctor said, you're going to die within 3 to 6 months. Okay? You don't have to go any farther than right here. My wife's mother just died of cancer, and that's exactly what happened to her. She had a little lump in her throat, went to the doctor, 6 months later she was dead. 2 years earlier, her father had the same thing happen. Right? So I tell my wife, you don't have a good track record. You better be in the gym and you better eat good food, baby. You're going to be gone. But the point being is, this is the real fact. Many people go to the doctor for a routine checkup and within months they're dead. Why? Because symptoms are the 5th phase before you're dead. So you got inflammation, excretion, inflammation, deposition, impregnation. Symptoms show up here. The tissues degenerate, you got cancer, you're gone. Okay, so if you wait till you're in pain to do something, you made a major mistake. I borrowed this from Robert Rakowski. He makes the point better than anybody can. He said the drug companies have you hooked from cradle to grave. They've got you all scheduled out right in their business plan. They know exactly what kind of stuff you're going to have going on. They've got it all figured out beautifully, and they market to every category. What did Einstein say? Isolation equals specialization. You break the body up in pieces, that's not how it works. You can't fix it with that consciousness. So we might interest you to know what a specialist is. The definition of a specialist is someone who knows more and more about less and less until they know absolutely everything about nothing. Okay?
Where is your reality then? What happens to who you are in your evolution of yourself as a human being, but more importantly, as a spiritual being? You'll never die. To live in this world is an opportunity that you were earned to be able and to create and to hold a spiritual consciousness through some really turbulent times to come. You wouldn't be sitting in this room if you weren't ready. You're sitting in this room because you're getting another piece of data to be able to make decisions upon as you move forward in this world that is coming, the changing face of time. In our lifetime, we will bear witness to a cosmic event in the beginning of an age. It has upheaval, it has changes, it has great shifts and great perspectives, and some of it is a little frightening. Unless you realize that this happened, you chose to be here, and you were chosen to be here.
So everything I've done, like the Galactic Special Forces, all that, it's in the algorithm of my Akashic record and my frequency, my DNA and all that sort of stuff. So it's there. So it's like I'm a codex of codes and stuff. So whatever code the individual needs, they get, sort of thing. Whatever's the right time of their journey and stuff in their consciousness Tetris. And this information, it's funny, it's from my perspective, I'm giving you the answers at the end of the like, say, math book and stuff, and I don't know if schools use books anymore, but they used to give us textbooks with the answers in the end, and you weren't meant to cheat. But because I'm giving you the answers on many things, it probably won't make sense because you don't have the context, because to understand the context, you do have to go through that consciousness Tetris, and I might be overlaying an image of a competition of Tetris, so you get, like, unless you get the right blocks for the lower levels, you're not going to comprehend this sort of stuff, and that's all cool. Trust me, the discovery process is awesome here, all right? It's one of the gifts we have in this unawareness realm, and that. So I love that journey of discovery. It's such a gift to get new realizations and you get that level clear, and then you see things from a totally different perspective. And I love that shift that you get, especially when you're wrong, all right?
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.